Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. And since love is the first word of this channel, I thought it was about time to start talking in depth about the love that I have in mind. And this is the love that the Bible describes. What does love have to do with marrying a Filipina? And what is love? There are lots of reasons a man could marry a woman, and love should be the chief one. So I'm going to try to describe what love is in this video. It comes from the Bible. It's not my idea. It is the type of behavior that I as a husband need to give my wife. I owe it to her. God commands me to love her that way. He has loved me that way and the whole world that way. So this, we will learn what love really is. Now, one of the first places to go to is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. It has a great description of love. It says, love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. Now that's not probably the first thing people think about when they think about what is love, but there it is described. The very first thing, love suffers long. Right out of the gate, you got to know if you're going to love a Filipina or any woman, you're going to have to suffer long. You're going to have to be consistent in your behavior. The husband needs to be patient and he needs to be kind. Patience will get tested in a very long distance relationship. If you're 5, 9, 10,000 miles away from this person, you can't spend time together. It will get tested in a large age gap relationship. It will get tested in any relationship. In this verse here, the husband needs to be unselfish, and that's one of the greatest keys to having a good marriage, is to be unselfish. And that's what love is. It's not easily angered also, and that's something I have to work with. Is I can easily get upset with things, and maybe I could get away with that when I was single, but my wife doesn't let me get away with that now. So love also bears all things, and it just gets harder and more difficult here as you read this description. His love bears all things. He believes the spouse can change if she is rebellious. He's not quick to kick her to the corner, or to the curb. He always hopes for the best in a bad situation, and he endures all things. His love never fails. This is God's love for us, and so it is also the way he wants husbands to love their wives. Marital love is focused on the other person. It's not, I want to find somebody to love me, as much as it is, I want to find somebody to love. It isn't what the husband can get, it is what the husband can give. It's a total commitment. It's not about feelings, it's about action. I'll talk later, if I don't forget, about the role of feelings and where they appropriately fit into love. And it isn't about what he can keep. Love is about what the husband can give away. So now let's look into some Bible verses that make this very, very clear. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. God gave so we could have. He gave up the most dear thing to him, his Son, so we, sinners, could have something better, eternal life and a relationship with him. That's just an unbelievable act of giving. By this we know love, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers. That's 1 John 3:16. Love being sacrifice, a laying down of life, a giving up of something. John 15:13, greater love has no man than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Also Ephesians 5 verse 2 tells us to walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. You can begin to see here how unselfish love is. Galatians 2:20, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, this is Paul talking, but Christ who lives in me. In the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. Christ died, he emptied himself, he came from a perfect heaven where he had been forever to become sin for his bride, the church. The only one who never should have done what he did is the one that did it, the perfect one paying for the sins of the sinner. And, what's in it for him? I don't know what was in it for him. I just know he became cursed so his bride could have everlasting life. Now here's some other thoughts on love. Hopefully it becomes more clear what it is and what it isn't. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment. Whoever fears has not been perfected in love. 1 John 4:18. Your Filipina shouldn't be afraid of you. She shouldn't be forced to do things or else something bad will happen to her. That's one of her biggest fears, is that her foreign husband is going to beat her. And the other one probably that he is going to try to control her. And if she knows that you love her, those aren't going to be concerns for her. Galatians 5:14, for the whole law is fulfilled in one word, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Agape love is a command. And then this one here, but God shows his love for us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5:8. So the love for your wife isn't when she is doing what we want or treating us right. It just has to be there. And of course that's difficult. It's not if you scratch my back, then I'll scratch yours. When she's at her worst, the same self-sacrificing love needs to be there, even at her worst. Love is not talking or feeling. Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. 1 John 3:18. And many times in these videos, and I'm just starting out here, I'm going to have a whole lot of videos down the line, and I will be showing practical ways to love your Filipina. I can think of a 4-part series I want to have called Down to Earth Ways to Have a Heavenly Marriage. It'll be so practical. I'm going to pick 12 verses from the Bible and just stick in there different activities that I use to show her that I am trying to carry out these verses in her life. It's very practical. So this death to self, or sacrificing ourselves, is worship. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Romans 12:1. So, yeah, it isn't inconceivable we should love our wives sacrificially when we understand we are also to present our bodies, our lives to God as a living sacrifice. And that's what Christ did for his bride. In fact, Jesus first gave up his will, surrendered his will to the Father to do his Father's will, and then he gave himself up for his bride. So again, love is sacrifice. It's not self-seeking. We haven't seen that at all here. And it says that God is love, 1 John 4:18. God in all his glory is the embodiment of love. His long-suffering and forgiveness are not signs of weakness, they are signs of love. You could say, if you love a woman like this, she's just going to take advantage of you. I don't know why she would take advantage of that. Is she going to find something better than that with someone else? If she is misbehaving, I think this is the only way to get her to change. It's like when the Bible talks about how to win over an unbelieving husband. It's through the chaste behavior of his wife. So the behavior, the act of love, of giving, of sacrificing, of being unselfish, does a lot more than berating with somebody with words. It's patient, it's kind, it's that way all the time. So the Bible also says, let all that you do be done in love, 1 Corinthians 16:14. So when you seek a Filipina to marry her, it is to love her. Yes, you have needs, and yes, they will be met as you first love her. So, service isn't weakness. People of strong character are lovers. Mark 10:45, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So you might say, honey, I intend to serve you. How can I best meet your needs? And again, I don't think that will be taken advantage of if you are consistent with your love. John 13:5 is the time when Jesus washed the disciples' feet. Now, I kind of feel that way about washing dishes, but there's nothing too big or small that cannot show love to your wife. Even though you as her husband are her head and her authority, Jesus' love and his headship is servant leadership. And then how about this one? I think this will be the last one I mentioned. Love your enemies. That's right, love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. That's Luke 6:35. There will be plenty of times in your relationship where your wife may seem like the enemy, and Jesus had plenty of those. They tried to kill him, eventually they did, and yet at the cross he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Of course, you have to constantly be forgiving your wife. So as far as feelings, don't you have to feel anything for her? I got engaged to my wife in 18 days, online, Christian Filipina. So I had never met her. I proposed to her. She said, yes, if you come and meet me. And so I went and I married her in the Philippines, got there as fast as I can, dragged it out to 54 days because I didn't have a passport, and there's a 10-day waiting rule or law in the Philippines. You can't just show up, get off the plane, and get married. So by the time the dust settled, 54 days, we were husband and wife. It was a whirlwind. We did communicate an awful lot, though. I did ask her the pertinent questions that mattered to me anyway. But it's almost like I didn't have time to develop feelings for her. I was just kind of obsessed with, I need a wife. I'm going to have to go out and love somebody. I want to be a lover. And I found her. And, of course, I got to spend time with her in the Philippines. Then it was 8 months apart. Came to America on January 11th, 2016. That's when I began to really be able to love her and experience, living with somebody and the difficulties that presents, the thorn, what does the Bible call that? I can't think right now. But there is friction. And Paul said, he would prefer we avoid that, troubles in the flesh. But that's inevitable, and love is going to work through all that. And as I've been able to put her first in my life and try to give myself up for her, I think about her all the time, that I have developed strong feelings for her. And I tell her this. There's no question about it. We've been married almost 3 years, and it gets stronger. It seems like every few months I just feel stronger love for her. Those are very strong feelings, but they were not there initially, because I hadn't learned to love her yet, because we just didn't have the time. So feelings, I wouldn't worry about them. They'll show up later, and if you love her properly, she's going to respond to you. So if you love like this that I've described here from the Bible, you will be a great husband for your love beyond the sea.